Hello, everybody, and welcome to our question and answer session with Dr. Hayes. Along with Dr. Hayes, today we have our former president, Leopold Samba. You can go ahead and say something for the viewers.
What's going on, you guys? Excited to be a part of this. Excited to see that, the continuation of this Q&A panel with Dr. Hayes and, Kamal putting it together this year. So, I'm getting the ball rolling.
Along with Dr. Hayes, we have Dr. Sean Messiah, and we also have Zachary and Osaji today, which are D1 students at schools of dentistry. And so today will be a continuation of our last session with Dr. Hayes, also known as Dr. Darwin. And so just for people who weren't able to make it for the first meeting, Dr. Hayes is the recently appointed state dental director for New Jersey, which marks the first time in over 30 years that the state has had a full-time director involved with making oral health a higher priority for state government. In this role, Dr. Hayes is responsible for oral health programming related to preventive dentistry, dental education, and oral hygiene for all state residents, including the most vulnerable populations. On his days off, you'll find him on social media, communicating, coaching, and mentoring pre-dental students like us. So, Dr. Hayes, the first question the membership is requesting is, as a sophomore, what should I be most focused on? My priorities, resume building, and classwork.
So first, before I answer the question, I just want to say thanks for having me back. This is part two of this discussion. We had so many questions last time that we had to break them up into two sessions, and we still have a lot of questions. So sophomores, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, sorry. And just to clear it up, Osaji is a D2 dental student. And yes, the question is, as a sophomore, what should I be most focused on? Should I be more focused on building my resume or my classwork and trying to get the best grades and retaking as many classes or, along those lines?
Well, I'm going to give you two perspectives. One from an admission standpoint, and then one from a former student standpoint. And I would also want the D1 and D2 students to share their perspective as well, especially since it wasn't too long ago that they were sophomores in college. What should you be most focused on? Man, I tell you, unfortunately, it's everything. You got to be focused on everything, both your resume or your CV, right? Your experiences, but also, yeah, your GPA too. So there's not just one thing that you have to give only 100% to. There's many different things that you've got to give 100% to. The resume building is something that should be done ideally with input from current dental students. And the person who asked that question, hopefully you're able to watch the replay or you're listening in to tonight, because you've got three dental students on the call who can actually help and share their perspectives about things that they did to build their resume and to build out and showcase their, why they should be considered for dental school, right? Because it is a holistic approach, meaning it's not just the things that you're doing, whether it's community service, whether it's research, whether it's shadowing, but it's also about your GPA. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to escape the notion of your classwork and your scores on your classwork, which is your GPA. Most schools now, as we discussed in part one, review applications based on a holistic approach, right? Looking at more than just your GPA, but looking at your community involvement, your shadowing, your experiences, how you communicate, etc. So for me, it's my answer to that question is it's both. It's everything. It's not just one thing that should be the most focused on, but it's a combination of many things. So I'm curious to hear what the current dental students think and what their perspective is as well.
And I can go ahead first. And I think Dr. Hayes, you made a great point and a great answer to the question. Kind of going off of that, I do think, like as Dr. Hayes was mentioning before, your GPA will weigh a lot because that is something schools will look at to measure if you can handle the academic rigor. But I also think the sophomore year is a time for you to start getting yourself involved on campus. Either it be through organization, and it doesn't have to be specifically pre-dental. It can be whatever organization you're interested in. Try to uphold an e-board position, or it could either be through you can do research as well. Try to see if you can get like like a little intern position at a research place, or you're a volunteer assistant or volunteer researcher, or even a research assistant type of project. I think it's a time for you to also do community service, or if you're working as well, you can do that as well. But overall, like you said, it's a very holistic review. So that sophomore year, I would say for me is like still main thing is focus on your grades. Make sure you're maintaining good grades, but also try to explore and get yourself into e-port positions or a research position on campus. And Zach and Osagi can give their input as well.
Yeah, so I'll echo what Leo said and what Dr. Hayes has said also, that like the most important thing is, well, two of the most important things I would say is like your GPA and your experiences. You only have like if you're going straight through, you only have your freshman, sophomore, and junior year to really build up like your GPA for dental school. So they will, like your senior year, they won't really be seeing like that those grades into your GPA. So if you plan on going straight through, like for sure, like make sure that like your GPA is solid, and trying to get experiences that'll like help you stand out as an applicant. So really like do your research, see what schools that you're interested in, see what makes those schools like unique to like other dental schools, and trying to find internship opportunities, any community opportunities that'll complement what makes that school unique. So like do your research, and kind of start building a list as to like where you would want to go, and get experiences that'll like kind of tailor to like the schools that you end up deciding that you like want to apply to.
All right, thank you guys. I'm Zachary. I'm a D1 here at UCSF. I think my unique was my experience was a little bit unique in that I was a Division I athlete at UCLA. So my application probably looked a lot different than most people. But in the pursuit, I always knew that I wanted to be a like healthcare provider. So like I had to really tailor, like fine tune as much as possible my CV and my research, because I didn't have as much time as like a traditional student for extracurricular activities, like that would probably help me more in terms of like well-roundedness, because playing football took up most of my time. So I would say focus on your GPA, and also as a sophomore, take the time out to like assess your major or your prospective major, because I think most of the time it's like just general requirements you're guiding through most of the way, and like I think like under division, like lower division science classes, you have maybe back to upper division classes. Like most importantly to remember about dental school is you don't necessarily have to be a science major. I wasn't a science major to matriculate into dental school. I actually double majored in political science and public health policy at UCLA. So it's just like understanding that you don't necessarily have to take on those harder or more intensive majors, because not that you can't do them. It's just that you want to make sure you're the most competitive candidate as possible. So like for the purposes of dental school, you just need your 1 year of biology, 2 years of chemistry, 1 year of physics, and I think maybe like a couple other electives like anatomy, physiology, like virology. to just help prepare you for dental school. So focusing on the core curriculum to like prepare you for like your D1 year. Um, I will also say like make sure that if you are not able to get like a lot of shadowing hours, I always count quality over quantity. So I have too many, like I said, I have too many too many activities that I did, but the quality of the activities I participated in were high quality. The research I participated in were high quality. And my thesis really spoke for itself once I graduated. So like I really focused on like recidivism and oral health cavities in suburban communities. So like just making sure that like your why, like why dentistry, is already being like the foundation is already being laid constantly as you are, on this path. Because one of the I think the most helpful thing my mentors told me is this is a marathon. So like you're constantly building your reputation and your CV. So just make sure you're putting yourself in perspective, and then also take into account like where you really want to be. Like, do you want to be on the West Coast, East Coast? Do you want to go to a historically black college? Like, just those things matter. So that will help you like kind of fine tune what your goals need to be. Because if you want to go to like one of these like private or like high ranking schools, GPA might play a bit more. But one of the things about UCSF specifically is they really take a holistic approach. Just recently we did the Impressions Conference, and we had to go over a bunch of applications. And some people were getting in. Some of the students that we went over had like 18s on the DAT, but their GPA was really high. Somebody had a really high DAT. It was like a 27, but they had like a 3.3 GPA. So like these things kind of all balance each other out. So just make sure that it's going to be a nice balance. But ideally, you'd like to have be sharp as a tack in every aspect.
Yeah, and to student Dr. Zachary's point, I mean, if you got a 3.5, not too many programs or schools are not gonna look at that. All right. Shadowing hours, things like that. I mean, every school is different as to the number of hours that are required, but that GPA, and you got a 3.5, 3.2, 3.4, 3.7, 3.8, trust and believe that will get people's attention, maybe a little bit more than shadowing hours or some other things that are going to go as part of your application on your resume. So there you go. I think, and it sounds like that was helpful.
That was very helpful. Because I heard a lot of echoes about GPA, and so that last comment you had, Dr. Hayes, really solidified that okay, a 3.5, whatever your GPA is, that that sort of represents your work ethic in a way that you're working towards, attaining, the knowledge you need to take the DAT and the knowledge you're going to actually use when you're in dental school. So thank you for that. You guys ready for the next question? How do you guys feel about that? Okay. The next question is relates more towards DAT directly. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but what study materials do you recommend I invest in to study for the DAT, of course?
Yeah. I think we're going to have some great feedback from the current dental students. And I like the fact that the person who asked the question asked the way they asked the question, as in, what what do you recommend that I invest in? That's very important, because yes, you must invest in yourself, especially in this application process, more specifically with the DAT, right? Again, DAT is typically been the measuring stick for a lot of schools, based on that score, based on the combination of scores. Yes, schools still look at your application holistically, but I tell you what, again, if you've got a 21 or 22, I met a brother that's going to Maryland. He had a 30 in one of his sections. Trust and believe, you got one of those types of scores, you will get some attention. So yes, investing in the DAT is key, and it can be really the impetus that gets you over the hump and get you noticed for some scholarships, right? Help you get the bag to pay for your investment into dental school. So the fact that you're investing in your DAT preparation, I'm glad to hear it. Now I know student Dr. Zachary, we were talking before we started. It's got some strong recommendations for people to consider related to the DAT and some programs that a program that he utilized and that he thought was beneficial. And before he shares that, just keep in mind, and we said this before too, we talked about it before, everything is not for everybody and everybody is not for everything, meaning not everybody is going to gravitate to DAT prep course A, and some may like prep course C just because of who they are, how they study, and the material and the structure that's associated with that prep course. And there are some students that will use a combination of prep materials, again, based on the strengths of those prep courses. So student Dr. Zachary, what's your recommendation on the investment and how to study for the DAT?
So my recommendation is as follows. Like, again, I wasn't a science major, so like I didn't really have. I don't consider myself having a super strong science background, even though like to be in dental school now, I got a strong background to that anatomy, physiology, all the other stuff got me right. But I would say the best tool that I found was DAT Bootcamp. Once again, DAT Bootcamp. I think for a 3.5-month trial, 4-month trial was like $250, which was ideal for me. Coming from the inner city, South Central Los Angeles kid. Not, I don't we come from like a silver spoon, so like $250 while I was an undergrad was a lot. But at the same time, wasn't expensive as like some of the Kaplan courses and like private tutors and things like that. The reason why I say DAT Bootcamp and I strongly advocate for that is because during my time when I was studying for the DAT, some of my friends had Kaplan, some of my friends had Kristen Review, all these other things. Just they had spent maybe like $1,200 on DAT prep material, and it was so many things that they had spent money on. They felt compelled to do a little bit of everything versus getting through one thing in totality and mastering that. So like my DAT score ended up being better than theirs because I already thought they weren't focused in terms of their approach. DAT Bootcamp provided me with a lot of hands-on study material. They gave me a study guide as well as slides, and everyone teaching me the science, the science stuff like general chemistry was about my age, or they're really well endowed in their field of expertise, specifically general chemistry. The test banks were extensive, and they gave me like 10 practice tests. So I got through all 10 of those practice tests, 10 full-length practice tests, as well as perceptual ability training. So I would strongly suggest DAT Bootcamp. Like I cannot give that enough praises. When I was trying to do self-prep off YouTube and things like that, I was getting like 17s, 18s on the practice test that I was like trying to do. Once I got DAT Bootcamp, after my third practice test, I was in the 20s. By the time I was ready to take my DAT, I was getting like 25. And the reason I really advocate for this is because once you take a practice test, they show you everything you got wrong. So when you take that day reviewing those things that you got wrong, you really, 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 really like it burns into your brain. And then every question they ask you has a breakdown of why this is wrong and why this is wrong and then why the answer is right. So like it's just such a great program. And I'm still currently using Dental School Bootcamp now, which is the dental school version of DAT Bootcamp. And again, it's helped me so far. And I'll be using that to prep for the CBSC too, as I try to pursue oral surgery. So I really advocate for the DAT Bootcamp.
Shout out to DAT Bootcamp. No, they are not a sponsor. But are you listening? DAT Bootcamp, are you listening? Dr. Leo, student Dr. Leo, what about you?
Man, I mean, Zach just knocked it out the park. I was a big DAT Bootcamp kid as well. So yeah, like, and honestly, he's been putting me onto that as well with that dental school DAT Bootcamp. So like, honestly, he hit everything I could really say. But for me, I used the DAT Bootcamp, and also I supplemented it with the DAT Destroyer. I found the Destroyer, even though some of the questions they would ask was like out, like it could be a little bit out there and still reinforce the basic concepts that would act the rasp on the DT, especially in terms of your basic sciences. So I really did appreciate that. Um, but I really do appreciate how the DT bootcamp, it also comes with that tentative schedule or a pre-planned schedule for you to follow. So you don't have, the headache of like, oh, there's so much volume. How do I organize it? It's already pre-made for you. It's like a 10 to a 12-week program. So once you, see that program and you follow it, or, you can adjust it to your schedule and how you want to work around it. It gives you a nice little foundation how to go about studying for the DAT. But that's all I use for my studying. Osage, what you use for your studying?
Yeah, so I used similar to you, I did DT bootcamp primarily, and I supplemented with Destroyer. I found that Destroyer was really helpful for like organic chemistry and for the math section. Um, and the book that I had, it had like a bunch of different like math questions and a bunch of like Oreo questions that you can run through. So I would recommend Destroyer for like Orgo, and I think the DAT boot camps Orgo section is really good. But if you just want something extra, I think the Destroyer's Orgo section is really good. And personally, I think I wasn't too fond of like, DAT boot camps math section, or quantitative reasoning. So I decided to get Destroyer for that, and that helped me a lot with quantitative reasoning. I was when I was preparing for the DAT, I had Kaplan, Destroyer, and Bootcamp, and I'd say that like Kaplan was, I think, out of all three resources, was the least helpful. Bootcamp for sure was the most helpful. And I think that having like Destroyer, if you're like someone that you want extra practice questions, and you have the time for it, like checking out Destroyer would be beneficial as well.
Now, one of the
if I might
things.
really quickly.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Zach. Yeah, definitely, Zach.
Also like I was trying to get Destroyer, so I didn't have it in the budget. But Khan Academy is also a free resource on
Yeah.
YouTube. So Khan Academy is as far as like you want to brush up on your basic foundations like organic chemistry, not really geometry, but I guess like algebra 1 and 2, because that's mostly kind of like what's on the quantitative reasoning. It doesn't go across I think geometry. And so like Khan Academy will get you right for those things too. And it's a very free resource. It's a great free resource. It's online on YouTube and provides practice questions. So I just want to add that one thing that I use to supplement my DAT bootcamp.
Yeah, those Khan Academy discussions that are online on YouTube. Shoot, I've looked at them to help my son with geometry honors because I couldn't remember none of that stuff. So there are a lot of resources, and you guys have heard many options that people have utilized. And you've heard that it's not just one thing, right? It's not just one resource, which means, oh God, that means I may have to, go deep in my pocket to buy all this stuff. Well, yes, but also no, because if you're tuned into your pre-dental society, and if they have structure in the sense that over the years, those pre-dental students that are now dental students that were using different study materials, hopefully they've been giving it back to the pre-dental society or copies of some of that material. So those up and coming future dental students could study and use those materials as part of a membership or part of your membership within the pre-dental society. So I say that to make sure that you guys are tapping into your friends and other colleagues that are pre-dental students that are in your organizations to be able to use, borrow, buy from, whatever it is, so that you can still utilize the resources that are available and not have to maybe have to pay top dollar if you're buying it for the first time. Because guess what? Those study materials have a purpose, which is to prepare you to get into dental school. And most of us, once we've used those study materials, that's it. So we want to give it back and push it forward by giving it back to those pre-dental students that are coming up in the years behind you. So check with your pre-dental society to see if there's a quote unquote DAT master file of different programs that you can tap into and use and start implementing some of those study habits, study techniques, and utilizing those old tests or those practice tests, those timed practice tests, timed practice tests. You want to be able to put yourself in that condition almost like it's test day. And like student Dr. Zachary said, being able to get the feedback after you've taken the test as to, why answer B is the correct answer and why C and D were a close second, but what one thing made it different. So good dialogue on the DAT. Hey, this is Dr. Darwin. Are you looking for some mentorship, some accountability, some help with getting all of this application and getting into dental school and getting into residency and then just your life as a new dentist? Look, I'm having monthly, twice a month, live coaching sessions and office hours so we can talk about all of that. I don't want you to struggle with the application process. I don't want you to struggle with getting ready for interviews. I don't want you to struggle about what list of schools and programs to apply to. We talk about all of that in our group, our monthly group called Dr. Darwin On Demand. Dr. Darwin On Demand. Check it out down below here. And then also, if you're interested and you want to get that help so you don't have to struggle anymore, so that you can get some mentorship, some accountability, and some help, hit this link right here. Hit that link right there so we can get you signed up and enrolled today. Today. Your future starts today. And I'm here to help you. This is Dr. Darwin. And join my members-only community called Dr. Darwin On Demand. Look forward to seeing you soon, okay? Now back to this episode. Enjoy.
So there's been a lot of talk about DAT bootcamp, and I took the liberty of looking up the price for the subscription for the 3-month subscription. So there's different subscriptions. There's a 3-month, 4-month, and 5-month. And so it is $500 for DAT bootcamp. But as everybody stated, it's well worth the investment. I do want to shed light on another study material known as DAT Booster. DAT Booster is about $300, so about $200 less than bootcamp. So shout out DAT Booster. They're also a really good resource as well.
And hopefully, I actually have a couple links that may be helpful for pre-dental students that are looking to buy these programs, and we'll share those links eventually. And also keep in mind, guys, that if there's 2 or 3 of you, you guys can split the cost so that it's not just on you or on the other person. Split the cost. Consider splitting the cost. If you got a birthday coming up, tell your friends and family, make a deposit, a Cash App deposit for my DET Dental School Preparation Fund, so that you can split the cost of getting into, so you can foot the cost to get into dental school with your preparation materials, right? You don't need all that Starbucks coffee. You don't need all those new headphones. You don't need those new Nikes that just came out, those new LeBrons that just came out. I know you're trying to look fly, but you're trying to get into dental school too. So save that money for the DAT preparation investment in courses.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. One thing I just wanted to add really quickly is that I use DAT Booster for PAT, and it was really beneficial. I would highly recommend the booster for the PAT section.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm using it now, so you reassured me, because everybody's saying boot camp, and I thought I chose the wrong one.
Yeah, no, you'll be fine.
For sure. Okay, and the last question for the DAT section of today is, how many times can I take the DAT? Should I intend to take it twice, 3 times?
If I'm not wrong, I think it's 3 times, right? You have 3 times that like they will let you allow like you can submit 3 scores at most dental schools. So I
Yeah.
guess you can take as many times as you want, but your top 3 scores can be sent to dental schools, and then they can also super score it as well. Some dental schools super score, some just take the raw score, but that's depending on the school you apply to.
And there are going to be some limitations on how many, the time frames when you take the first one versus a second one.
You're 6 months apart. You got to be 6 months apart.
Yeah, 6 months apart. I thought at one time it was even like 90 days. Well, that's 6 months. I mean, that's 3 months. But that is a question that is routinely answered on the DAT website. So utilize Google like you do for all the other stuff and search it right there on the DAT website. They will give you a specific time period and instructions related to how many times you can take it before you have to wait, whether it's 6 months, a year, or 2 years. But the goal is to take it once, right? One and done. And if it's not one and done, it's okay. You still have an opportunity to take it again. Some people take it again and of course increase their score. And so that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I think I took it twice. Most people take it once or twice. And that's okay, because guess what? You haven't taken this exam before, right? You've taken all these other exams, science, math, etc., but you have not taken the DAT before. And even if you do practice test, there will be a slight difference in some of the questions, but also that environment. So it's okay. You get that experience, you get that exposure, and you take it again, right? You do what you have to do, whatever it takes.
To piggyback on what Dr. D is saying, I think that like exposure is a big part of it, but I think that I guess a catalyst for the very best score you could get is just how many number of practice tests you take. Like, you have to take as many practice tests as possible before taking the DAT. Like, I would recommend taking a DAT practice test 12 times before you take the DAT. Because at that point, like it's like listening to a rap song 12 times versus once or twice. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're more likely to get that. Like, when things come up, because a lot of the DATs, you're not going to remember everything. You're just not. But if you master enough of the test and the content, the process of elimination will save you. Because I know, like, I was shocked when I saw my score. Even though I was seeing it on DAT Bootcamp, when I saw it, I was like, yeah, we out. But I attribute my success really not so much to the mastery of the material, but mastering the course of the exam. Like, taking that test, literally, I took the DAT practice test 11 times. Like, because they gave me 10 practice tests on DAT Bootcamp. I took it one more time. I took the first one more time before I took it. And that
Repetition.
score pretty much matched up with my score I got on my DAT.
Repetition. Certainty, confidence, certainty, right? Just like when you guys as D1 start prepping frown preps and amalgam and all the other preps, that first time you do it, it's like, oh my God, I just butchered this person. I mean, this ivory tooth. Oh my God, give me another tooth, right? But 20 times later, you're like, oh, look at this beauty of perfection of prep that I've just done. Look at me. But it was from you doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? So it's definitely not a type of thing where you want to microwave result with your DAT. Yes, take those practice tests.
And kind of to like go off of what Dr. Hayes and Zach were saying about repetition. This is a test where you don't want to go in and be like, oh, I'm just taking multiple times and take my high score, because one, it's not a cheap test. It's a pretty hefty price. So you want to go in there and be one and done with it. And with the study options or study material we've been giving you guys since DT Bootcamp DT Booster, I feel like, keep repeating those practice tests and it'll help a lot. For me, I felt that DT Bootcamp gives you 10 tests, and after each test I would do, or before I take another practice test, I would thoroughly review kind of what I was saying earlier, why I got each question wrong in each section, and then go to the next test and try to avoid those questions. And then eventually you'll start noticing patterns with the test, because it's like it's not it's like every other test, right? Like there's gonna be patterns to it, and once you kind of find those patterns, like, okay, like even if I don't know the answer to this, I can do process elimination and get to the right answer, and you'll see your scores dramatically increase. So repetition is key.
Yeah. Repetition is the key to mastery of the DAT.
I would like to add one more thing. So because the DAT is still fresh in my mind because I'm actively and currently studying for it. Some, like for example, the PAT, there are some skills that you aren't even consciously aware that you're developing, that your unconscious is very well aware of. And so by doing more practices, you're both learning actively and inactively. So I think it's very important to just let your mind and let your body just be in the space of you just constantly doing those practice tests, like Zachary stated earlier. And so there's learning going on that you don't even know about. And so by exposing yourself more to what you're about to encounter, then I think you're able to set yourself up for success in there. So. All right. And the next question. So now we are out of the DAT section of our little Q&A here. The next question is, what should I do to prepare for a dental school interview?
Dental school interviews. You guys that are listening and watching, you guys are lucky. You got 3 people who can give you a most recent experiences with the interview. So I'll kick it off to say this. There is no, I'm not going to prepare for the interview. I'm just going to go and wing it and just going to be myself. You can do that, but you can also not get into dental school too. So if you're going to invest all of this time, all of this money, all of this sweat, study, equity into reaching your goal, don't do it halfways, right? Do it with full intention, full energy, full level of enthusiasm, right? One of the main things that you want to be prepared for when you walk in that into the school in the interview, and keep in mind, the interview starts right when you park the car and getting ready to enter the doors of the school. Everybody that you meet has some role in the school that you want to be keyed into, right? Dental students are involved. You have staff members, support staff members, even before you get to the interview room with the faculty. But the main thing that you want to be focused on is your CV, because that is the one thing that schools have, in addition to your application, that they're looking at to see if what you put down in paper, what you say is documented of who you are, is the truth. And you're going to be able to, you're going to be required to eloquently, but mostly intentionally communicate all the deep, more than just the things that are a summary of who you are and what you've done based on your resume. You're going to need to go into some details, tell some stories about the things that you've indicated in your application, but more specifically in your resume and CV. So you need to know your CV front and back, left and right, upside down, downside up, because that's one of the main sources that we have as alums and also faculty members to ask questions from. In addition to that, you need to know, the second thing that you need to know is why you want to come to that school. Why you want to come to UCSF? Why do you want to come to Michigan? Why do you want to come to Rutgers? Why do you want to come to University of Maryland? And what makes the school unique that is in alignment with who you are? You got to figure that out. And you got to specifically and intentionally tell them why that school. It can't just be, oh, I want to be in Baltimore, so that's why I picked Maryland, or I want to be in Maryland, so that's why I picked University of Maryland, or I picked NYU because I want to live in New York. Okay, but there's so much more that you need to really be able to demonstrate and share with them about why that school. Because even though all the schools are accredited, all the schools are not the same. And they teach you how to do certain things differently. And so they're not the same. So you need to specifically share with them why you have that school that you're interviewing at, why you have them on your list and why you're there. So I'm interested to hear a little bit more from the D1s and D2s as to, their interview days and the things that they prepared and some of the questions that maybe they had that they may have maybe wanted to prepare differently, or anything that they, knowing what they know now, they had wished they had done differently in preparation.
Well, I think that it's important to realize there's like 3 ways to go. So like for Ivy Leagues, I feel like in my experience, like, so there's like HBCUs, and then there's like liberal colleges or universities, and there's like Ivy League colleges and universities. So like, for example, UCSF was a closed application. So they don't have your CVS, I mean, there's not that your CV in front of you. They're really assessing kind of like who you are. I think my year was still coming out of the pandemic, so mine is largely on Zoom. But it really was just like trying to see who I was as a person, making sure you're not like a robot almost, because like a lot of people are great on paper, but they're not very good people like a good people person, which you need to be in this field, because your patients are real people, and they're from all socioeconomic backgrounds. So you might have someone who's really educated, someone who has no education at all. You have to be able to communicate effectively the status of their oral health to the best of your ability. And sometimes you have to accommodate for some of their disabilities they might have actually. So like when I interviewed for Howard, my CV was brought up maybe one time, but more than anything, my interviewers wanted to know why I wanted to go to Howard. So they asked me things about Howard School of Dentistry specifically, asked me things about their mission, their aims, asked me things about the different residency programs that they offer specifically. And the biggest question that came up in my HBCU interviews were why dentistry? And like, I got grilled about that. Like, why do you want to be a dentist? All right. And then I had like 2 Ivy League interviews. They were very focused on like my the research aspect of what I had going on. So my CV was basically all we talked about. And again, naturally why dentistry, but really my research and what I want to do in dentistry with dentistry and why dentistry. UCSF kind of asked me myself, gave me the need to tell them what, like I was able to lay out what I wanted them to know about myself. So you kind of have to get your elevator pitch ready, because you're gonna have to use that a lot. Be able to break down who you are and where you've been, what you're trying to do, and what you see yourself doing later with dentistry in about 5 to 10 minutes. And also just become presentable. And I think that again, this impressions conference that Leo was in charge of this year, I was able to read a bunch of, because I was one of the board members, so in charge of application review. I was able to read a bunch of these past applications, and some of the comments by the interviewers from UCSF were that people broke professionalism. So like some people got a little too relaxed during the interview, and it negatively impacted them. So keep in mind that you are being evaluated. Keep in mind you're entering professional school. It is a professional setting, and even though you might have a little flavor, like a lot of the brothers on the Zoom call with me right now, you have to maintain professionalism. You have to maintain. You have to understand that you're being evaluated. You are being compared actively to everyone applying. So professionalism is important, and not to say lose sight of your personality, but keep in mind that professionalism is the major key.
Yeah, and to add on top of that, the getting an interview is pretty much one foot in the door, So it's already that's a good indication. Like the school is very interested in you and is willing to give you the acceptance. It's just it's how you present yourself at these interviews. Um, Due to the pandemic, I know some schools are like going virtual, going to like the Kira assessment, where like you're recording yourself with like questions they have on top. So that one is a little bit more difficult to really show your personality. But in those type of situations, still keep the professionalism up and show why dentistry is so catered to you as with your personal story. Because and same thing with in person or Zoom conference interviews, because at the end of the day, these dental schools already know your resume and already know who like what you are on paper. So like what Dr. Darwin says is like, how does what you said on this application match what you are as a person, what you say as a person? So when you go in, show your person that like show you can still like you don't have to be as stiff or robotic, but you can still be a little bit of yourself, but also express why these things you said on your resume are why you want to be you want to be a dentist and why you want to become a dentist through this school. So big thing with UCSF is like if you find any way to tie in their mission statement or mission statement into why dentistry or why I want to come to UCSF, that's a really good indication of like this is a good candidate because he said this about our like our mission statement and it ties well with what he said into his answer. So that's another aspect you have to consider. And also like going back to what Dr. Darwin has Hayes said is once you get there, like it's game time. Like everything you do, it's like everyone's watching you. There's listening to everything you say. So like you have to be on your top game when you come to these interviews, either it's in person, Zoom, or if it's a recorded session.
Yeah, like what I'll add is that, while you're preparing for your interview, I think it's important to really do your research on the school. Um, Really know like again, like what makes the school unique. Know, like the, mission statements. Um, and when you get to the interview, just take your time, like don't take too much time, but like, take your time in answering the questions. Um, and make sure that you have questions to ask the interviewers. I think that shows that you're, really like, intentional about like what you want to gain from the school as well. So really like, do your research and try to think of some, like really um really good questions that one will enhance your understanding and say like if you were to get accepted into all of the schools that you apply to will help you decide which way to lean to or which way to go.
Yep.
In addition to that, I would say you know make sure that I wouldn't like rehearse too much on like what you're going to say because you don't want it to you don't want to sound like a robot or that you're just like reading off your script in your head, but know your key points and talk about it. Just practice talking about your key points, and like really just reviewing your like your experiences. Um, Really try to like refresh on like what you really took away from each experience, so that if you are asked about it you can talk about it. Yeah, also say know your application, be yourself, and just really do research on the school so that you can ask some really good questions and also answer any of the questions they may have.
Good points. The research on the school is key. Again, it's another reason and part of the answer of why you want to come to this school. But if you don't know what the mission of the school is, what the purpose, how it was founded, what their impact is in the community, then you're not prepared. You are not prepared. So yes, you've got to dive deep into the schools. And also the point about the questions. Yes, you must ask questions. I'm going to say it again. You must ask questions. At the end of the interview, usually there's an opportunity and they will say, do you have any questions for us? Your response should be, yes, I do. Thank you so much. And then boom, you go into your questions.
You got to have questions. The only question that you shouldn't ask, I'm sorry, the worst question to ask is the one that you don't ask. If you heard me, you heard me. You need to ask questions, right? The worst question to ask is the one that you don't ask, because it gives the impression that you know everything. Or it also gives the impression that maybe you're not really interested in the school, because if you were interested, you would be asking some questions about faculty, about student life that maybe was not shared in a presentation or was not discussed with, on the tour that you had of the school, or was not demonstrated on the website, because you've done your homework, you've done your due diligence, and now you're sincerely asking these questions because you want to know. That will all come out in the interview, but more specifically, it'll come out in the questions that you ask. You got to ask questions.
Now we're gonna take like a full turn. Okay, we're gonna go into the business side of dentistry, which I know are some people's highlights as to why they want to pursue dentistry. And so the first question is, if I were to establish a private practice, how would I build a clientele, and how would I get people to know about my little dentistry business?
Well, first of all, it's not a little dentistry business. Dentistry is a big business. It is a big business, so much so that corporations are paying billions and trillions of dollars to get their footprint into oral health, because not only is it profitable and it's noble in the sense that it's helping people not only get out of pain, but it's helping them achieve basic necessities and chewing, talking, speaking, getting jobs, all of that. So it's not a little business. It's definitely not a little business. It's so much of a big business that, unfortunately, there isn't enough time to teach you what you need to know to be a dental entrepreneur in dental school. 4 years of dental school is really to teach you how to be a technician. And guess what? Those 4 years still ain't enough time. Dr. Masai and I will tell you, we're still learning things about implants, patient relations, root canals, smile makeovers, that can't be crammed into 4 years of dental school, especially 4 years of dental school that only incorporates 2 years of clinical full-on patient experiences. And those patient experiences are very limited because you're only seeing 2 or 3 patients a day, which is not reality when you graduate dental school. That's a whole nother conversation. However, the business of dentistry is, unfortunately, has to be continue to be learned through observation, through shadowing. If you have a mentor while you're a dental student, you spend your time, your free periods, not free periods, your free semester hours with your mentors, shadowing, seeing how they are running their practices, see how she is running her practice, see how he is running the group practice. That will be one of the best lessons and experiences for you as you're in dental school. But keep in mind, if your number one job while you're in dental school, it ain't to learn the business of dentistry. Your number one job while you're in dental school is to get out. Is to get out. You got to get through. And that's most important, because the business of dentistry won't mean anything if you ain't graduate. So you got to get through. Dr. Masayo, I know he's very passionate about the business of dentistry, especially since he's been in practice over 20 years in New York. So definitely want to have him share his thoughts as well.
Oh, wow. I mean, I don't even know. There's so much to talk about. So building a clientele. I've been in business practice about 20 years. Uh, um, um, so how have I built my clientele? At my time, 20 years ago, was flyers. Oh, excuse me. I did flyers. Obviously, everybody has a website. Starting out with, friends and family, and then they're referring others. But I would say I have young mentees who just started their practices within the last 5 years. And I would say both of them built their practice, and their practice already what became successful, in my opinion, very quickly was social media and getting great reviews. Both of them are on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, things like that. I am not on social media, but I would say those young dentists were on social media, and they did a great job with social media and a great job with customer service and quality dentistry. And that's, so I would say that's how young dentists build their practice nowadays. In my time, was more starting with, like I said, flyers and friends and family. And for example, I still give a $15 Starbucks gift card for anybody who refers. I support, all the things you read about. I support my local. I am close to Harlem, so I support the Dance Theater of Harlem. I have some patients that are from Morehouse, so I support their alumni chapter dinner. I support Spelman dinner. So, I cater more to, I wouldn't say middle class, a more upper middle class or upper class Black population. So, and I live near my practice too. So I do things within the community here also, uh, in terms of supporting the businesses around here. So I would say those kind of traditional things you've heard, but I would say my younger mentees have done a lot of it through social media.
And I'll add this too, which is very key. You've got to be in the community, right? The people that you're looking to help are in your community. They may be in your church. They may be at the Starbucks that you go to. They may be at the Wegmans or Whole Foods that you go to. They're going to be in the parks that you work out and travel at. So you've got to be out in the community in many different ways. Also, you build your clientele through relationships, like Dr. Messiah said, friends and family, right? But you also have friends and family who have other colleagues, other people that they know. And one thing has not changed in, hundreds, or at least 100 years, is the fact that most people, not everybody, but most people got teeth. Right? All of us smiling right now. We showing our teeth. Most people got teeth, but not everyone has a dentist. Not everyone has a dentist. So guess what, guys and gals? It's your job to be that person's oral health consultant. And I've done this many a times. I'm out in the public. I'll meet somebody. They smile and be like, "Oh my God, you got a great smile. Who's your dentist?" "Oh, I go to so-and-so." "Oh, okay, well, cool. Well, I was just checking because I was going to say, if you needed, an oral health consultant, I wanted to be available for you. And if you know anyone who's looking for a dentist, please let me know." That's what I do. I help people with their smiles, but most importantly, make sure they don't have any pain, they don't have any infection, they can eat, smile, be sociable, go for a job interview, have confidence, all of that. That's your job. So you have to be out where people are. Yes, you do have to be active on social media, right? But you also want to be out where people are, where they're congregating and conversating and interacting. And your job is to determine if they need an oral health consultant, because that's what you are as a dentist. You're an oral health consultant. So being in the community, relationships, word of mouth, which is big, along with social media, all helps. But keep in mind, everybody's on social media right now. Everybody. So how are you different as a dentist? What's going to make you different as a dentist, as a individual building her or his clientele? What makes you different? Because right now, most of the people just think, oh, you're a dentist, oh, you know how to do this and that. But you want to show them what makes you unique and how you're different. And a lot of it's going to be based on your communication and how you relate and how do you talk to people and how you present yourself. So that's how you build your clientele.
Thank you so much for all the good advice. The next question is, besides endodontics and orthodontics, which are popular professions or popular specialties in dentistry, what other professions are there?
So to answer that question, let's first level set. There is the dental profession, and within the profession, there are specialties, right? Or there are things that expert dentists called specialists do that maybe some general dentists they may do, but maybe not at the same level, or maybe most general dentists may not have specialized training, which could be anywhere from 2 to 6 years of additional training within the dental profession to be an expert in a specialty, whether it be endodontics, like you mentioned, orthodontics, like you mentioned. There's also pediatric dentistry, very popular right now as a specialty, very difficult to get into. There's oral surgery that I think Dr. Zachary is interested in, oral surgery as well. There's even dental anesthesiology right now. That's a new approved specialty where you're as a dental anesthesiologist, you work with dentists and maybe even ENT and other medical specialists on cases, providing sedation. But for whoever asked that question, you've got to go deeper, and you have the resources. You have the resources in front of you to learn about the different types of specialties. All you have to do is Google dental specialties. What are the dental specialties? And you'll get a whole list of other specialties that you can consider. Also, there's oral facial pain in medicine. Oral medicine is a specialty as well. So those are just some of the ones that are probably most popular, being ortho, pedo, and oral surgery. Next question.
Thank you so much for that one. I was wondering if Dr. Messiah had anything to add regarding dental specialties and
Yeah, sure. I'd like to add that dental specialists make far more money. I'd like to add that. I mean, a general dentist, and the salaries, like he says, are on the internet. But what I didn't realize is that additional 2 or 3 years would double and triple your salary. I think it's good for you to know that, right? I just assumed that if I worked hard and did the right thing, but there's no way when you do the compound interest you're making X and they're making 2-3 times X. You can imagine they can retire earlier, they can have a bigger house, a faster car, they can go on more vacations, right? Their quality of life, I mean, it's just a numbers and cents. I'm saying apart from personal satisfaction, etc., just the raw number, specialists are going to make more money, and they're going to work less for making more money. And so I think that's a critical thing to know, because I just didn't think about that when I was in dental school, about that delta, that big difference, right, in terms of coming out of dental school, because I was offered the opportunity to go into perio, but I was just like, it doesn't matter too much. I'm just a dentist like everybody else. But no, I think completely differently now. I think that if you have an interest in a specialty, you can do it. I think sometimes people say, well, wow, it's doing the same thing. It's kind of boring. I disagree. My specialists, the cases that I send them, they have all kinds of complications and interests. And they have to go to the specialist because a general dentist can tackle it, but the outcomes are you may have more pain. The success rate is going to be lower, and the longevity of that tooth or that situation that you're trying to save and work with will be less with a general dentist. So I'm a big believer that if you have an opportunity for a specialist, you're interested in a specialty, please do it. We live in a capitalist society. What does that mean? That means those with the capital have the benefits and the advantages in our society, right? And if you're a specialist, you're going to have more capital. And so in terms of that, I mean, I have a general dentistry practice on Upper West Side of Manhattan. I have 2 chairs, and I refer out. I don't do any endo. I don't do any oral surgery. I don't do any periodontics. You know, I refer out all those things, right? And so my referring dentists are very busy just from me alone, in addition to all the other people, you know. And so, you know, my view, those are the specialists that I usually refer to a lot. I don't have too many kids coming to me, so I don't refer out kids. And you know, they do very well, and they make a bigger income than me and have a tremendous flexibility than I do as a general dentist. You know, their main job is really just to do a good job for the work and also have a good relationship with me. They have to be nice to me all the time. You know, that's their job mainly, you know, to be nice to me and to make sure they do a great job and communicate very well in terms of the work that they do to me. But I'm a big fan of people specializing if they're so inclined.
Thank you so much for that. And we could ask one more question, depending on timing, because I do want to be respectful of everybody's
Yeah,
time.
let's do this. Let's do this last question. That'll be great.
Okay, perfect. All right. This is building off of business and the dentistry business, and in terms of dentistry trajectory towards the future. What is the Smile Direct Club, and how do you feel about it regarding the future of dentistry? And so for those who don't know, the Smile Direct Club basically like delivers that their whole slogan is that they deliver smiles to your door. So in a way, sorry. In a way, they deliver smiles to your door, so you can have your dental care at home.
Now, but let's be specific. Let's be specific. It's not dental care at home. Let's make that distinction. Smile Direct Club delivers clear aligner orthodontics. It is a lab, right? Or it functions really as a lab. It's a lab that, quote unquote, has somewhat bypassed us as dentists. However, they have dentists on staff that look at the cases that you submit. So when I say when you submit, meaning it's kind of like a business, a lab to customer, or customer to lab, versus customer or patient to the dentist, who sends the case to the lab sends it back to the dentist, and the dentist sends it or delivers it to the patient. That dentist element with the Smile Direct Club has, quote unquote, been bypassed. And it has caused a big uproar, of course, in the profession. So much so that many states have regulations and regulatory statutes that prohibit companies like Smile Direct Club from functioning in their state. And Smile Direct Club has a position where they feel as if that they should be able to offer that service. They do. Well, they are not operating without dentists or without a license of a dentist, because they do have people on staff that are looking at these impressions or molds of people's teeth that are being submitted by the patient and sent into Smile Direct Club. They're saying that they do have those folks on staff, and they are countersuing many states for the ability to be able to practice or to be able to be established in a particular state. I know in New York, and Dr. Messiah could shed some more light on it as well. In New York, they are existent. They even have, I've seen some actual Smile Direct stores where people can walk up, just like you walk up and get your coffee. You can walk up and get your digital impression or mold of your mouth to get your teeth straight. Just like that. So that future, that reality is now. It's probably not going away in the sense that with technology and the things that we're able to do in dentistry, even some of the lab work that typically dental technicians have done solely has changed. The technology, the digital technology has changed the game, where some labs have had to close because they're not able to afford and modernize their laboratories with all the digital technology that's being used from the dentist, from scanning or taking digital impressions of your mouth, where there's no more material that's kind of put in your mouth like gum or Play-Doh. And that technology can be very expensive for the dental labs. So now you see a lot of labs that have come together, or labs that have now bought smaller labs because they're able to leverage and have the resources to pay for the technology. So that technology piece is not going away because it also has advanced dentistry and the tools and the things that we're able to do as dentists, as far as diagnosing and treatment planning and scheduling and sequencing treatment in a very efficient way. So that technology piece is not going away. And Smile Direct Club is still around. It probably will continue to be around. And it's one example of the technology coming to the forefront and potentially making an attempt to bypass us as dentists. So instead of patients coming to the office, they can walk up to a Smile Direct / Starbucks like boutique to get oral health solutions delivered to them. Dr. Messiah?
Smile Direct Club, obviously a big company, billion-dollar company and all that. I have found that they're able to do, and Darwin explained how it works, where you get the mold sent, you send it in, they give you the aligners. So it's able to work with simpler movements, simpler crowding, simpler closures, and it works pretty good. The challenge is when it becomes a little more complicated, and the challenges also are, what are the consequences of moving those teeth in that particular direction on the temporomandibular joint, right? Because the teeth are moved in a different position. So you may start to have some discomfort. You may start to have teeth breaking and cracking. But on the simpler cases at work, I think Dr. Hayes is correct. It's here to stay. But I don't think it will impact very much dentists, any of you all. It's just another place in the market, another product in the marketplace. But people who want a quality product, will continue to come to dentists and ask them for that. But so I think it plays a role. You may say, instead of spending $4,000 or $5,000 with a dentist, I can spend $500 or $1,000 with Smile Direct to move small movements. And for us, dentists tend to be obviously type A perfectionists. We've studied hard, and so we want the teeth to be in exact positions. We want the teeth to be healthy, where the patient expectation is different. I just want a little bit of movement. It's fine if it's a little bit off. So you find that disconnect. And so Smile Direct Club is a perfect fit because the dentist would want to do this and want to do that to just get it all the right way. When you're talking about the boot camp and the organic chemistry and all that, and all I want is a little bit of movement here. And so that also just an FYI, that technology is expanding now to night guards. There's companies that you can send, you want a night guard, because a night guard it's been so common. People are breaking a lot more teeth since the pandemic. And so there's a company out there that you can, they give you the stuff, you make the molds, and they send you back a night guard. You don't have to come to a dentist to make a custom-made night guard. Obviously, they sell night guards at Dwayne Reed and CVS, but those are rubbery and they make you grind even more. So technology changes the world, right? And so you get not only aligners, but you also have companies that are doing night guard following up on the Smile Direct model. But is it going to impact tremendously future dentists like yourself? In my opinion, no. In my opinion, no. It doesn't have an impact on my practice at all, very little. Matter of fact, I think it may create more opportunities because people,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
it may create more opportunities. I have people from, like I said, I have patients that went to try Smile Direct, they gave up on it. They haven't come back to do orthodontics, but they're still my clients because they had some minor movement. They're like, oh, it didn't work out. You know, I'll just keep my teeth the way they are. I've had people who had Smile Direct and been very happy with the movements, but I think it will not impact. But what I also do think, though, is keep your ear to the ground, right? When you look at these technologies that are happening, pay attention, learn, understand what's going on, because that will then help you to be more effective when you set up your own practice as to how you want to set up your practice given the technologies, the competition that's out there. So I think it gives you perspective and information. It's good to know and understand how those things work.
And it's part of consumerism. It is an option, another option for patients, another modality that patients can use to help them, in this case, with their smile and getting it in better alignment, right? As Dr. Messiah said, case selection is key. Case selection is key. Just like anything we do in dentistry, right? The case, the selection and the limitations and being able to diagnose and give an evaluation as to how the case is going to go, that requires expertise. That requires someone who's been trained in being able to properly diagnose and properly be able to evaluate the case to know this is going to be a little bit more difficult, more challenging. This is what's going to happen at stage 3, at stage 4, right? So it is currently a disruptive force in dentistry on how dentistry has been typically practiced. And like Dr. Messiah said, it's not going anywhere. The opportunity is for you all as new dentists. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to be recruiting you for opportunities in their locations throughout the country as they expand. They're going to be looking for individuals like you that have the expertise, especially if you're an orthodontist in this particular case, because they need you, they need your expertise to continue their business model of delivering straight teeth for people who need that. So Smile Direct Club, like many other new companies that have been birthed out of the use of technology, it's not going anywhere. It'll be here. So I hope that helps.
That definitely helps and does objectively answer the question. So thank you for that. And yeah, that was the last question for our Q&A session here today. Thank you, Dr. Darwin. Thank you, Dr. Sean Messiah. And thank you to all the student doctors also on the chat and the USNDA members for attending our Q&A session today.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Dr. Darwin Hayes, pleasure always seeing you guys.
Yeah, no problem.
Best of luck, guys. Best of luck.
Thank you.